طيب السلام عليكم شباب. week 2 math AMS term 2. إن شاء الله يعني so far it's a bit long بس يعني it's kind of easy يعني. You just have to understand there's a lot of rules you have to memorize. صراحة this is probably one of the harder math AMSs, probably because I was absent the first week بس يعني there's a lot of new stuff. Still only the second week يعني. بس you're gonna learn the concept of derivatives. What يعني derivatives, it's something to do with graphs. Okay, you have to know what a derivative is, and obviously going into like grade 11 and stuff, you're gonna use this a lot in grade 11 math. Derivative. Okay, it's very easy. uh, it's not complicated بس والله في rules يعني. Okay. يا أخي this question is not easy. Question 1: x squared equals 144 أكيد. You get x equals plus minus radical 144, which is 12 and negative 12. You know that if you square root, you have to always have plus minus. They say if more than one value exists, enter the smaller value. So I just put minus 12. This is the same thing. Take 13 to the other side. You get 4x squared equals 36. Divide by 4. You get x squared equals 9. So x equals plus minus radical 9, which is x equals 3. X equals negative 3. This is simple math يا شباب. It literally can't get easier. Okay, when they say roots وما بعرف شو, they're talking about radical. So if you want to solve this, you get x squared, take 100 to the other side, it will become 1 minus 100, it's negative 99. بس يعني negative number, so if you put the radical on it, you'll get x is undefined. Because it's a negative number, it has no roots. This is easy. Negative number, no roots. Okay, honestly for this one, I tried my ways. I got two answers every time, and even like the next one, there's there's three answers. فلوك أنا the way خلاص إنه the way that would work every time is just try each answer. You have a calculator anyway, so it doesn't really matter. ف they're saying sine of something equal when they put the symbol, it means يعني something. Theta. Sine of theta equals radical 3 over 2. What could be theta? Now look, the logical thing you would do, أول شيء, since you're working with radicals and not angles, change your calc to radians. Okay, أول شيء the logical thing to do is you do shift sign of radical 3 over 2. Okay, once you do this, you're gonna get pi over 3. You get this answer. طب يعني there's two more answers. Okay, and I tried doing plus pi and I got this answer here, and then minus pi I got this answer. But مهم, explaining that, and I don't know why I did that, and I just tried random shit. Okay, but honestly the way that would work in the exam is do sine of each one. So like do sine 2 pi over 3. Okay, make sure it's in radians, yeah. Okay, and you'll get this. But مثلا if you do sine of negative 2 pi over 3, you're gonna get negative radical 3 over 2, which isn't this. Okay, and then try them, so on and so forth. You'll get this one, you'll get something else. But these two, when you do sine pi over 3, you'll get radical 3 over 2. And when you do sine 7 pi over 3, you'll also get radical 3 over 2. And just try them all. Same thing for the next question. Change calc to radians. Change your calculator to radian. Okay, same thing. And the only way I found to work, it's probably because I don't understand it, to be honest. I probably don't understand. It's probably a good way to do it. But this is the way this is working with me. So I just did tan 5 pi over 6. And then see if it gets this. Obviously it won't, because these three are the correct answers. So just try them. Tan and those. Okay. Here you have a look at them. Okay. هلا derivatives. Okay. Oh my god. Derivatives. Okay. Derivatives. It's something in mathematics, mostly algebra. But you're gonna be, oh, why are we taking IG? Because in IG math and external exam you're gonna have algebra, and we're also gonna take geometry in IG later. بس مهم derivatives, it's very easy. Okay, it has a formula. The formula is the derivative is called, okay, we call the derivative dy over dx. You're gonna be like, what the fuck is this? This is just a name. It's just a name. So whenever you see dy over dx, we're talking about the derivative. Okay, so if I say dy over dx is greater than 0, that means I'm telling you that the derivative is greater than 0, or it's positive, because greater than 0 means positive. المهم, I told you dy over dx is my derivative. You're gonna tell me, how do I find this derivative? Okay, here's what you do. Let's say you have x to the power of n. Okay, what is the derivative of x to the power of n? Okay, this is just an example. The derivative of x to the power of n, there's two steps. Okay, the first step, multiply n by the coefficient of x. Coefficient of x. So in this case, the coefficient of x is, let me put it in red, coefficient of x is 1. Okay, so it's gonna be 1n, let's just put it in green, 1n x to the power of n, right? When I use actual numbers, it's gonna be way easier. Okay, then step 2 is subtract the n power by 1. Okay, let's use this rule. Let's say, and I gave you 7x to the power of 5. What is dy over dx? What is the derivative of 7x to the power of 5? Okay, let's do step 1 is multiply n by the coefficient of x. What's my n here? It's 5. So I multiply 5 by 7. So I get 35x to the power of 5. That's the first step. هلا second step, and I subtract the n power by 1. So I subtract the 5 by 1. I get 35x. 5 minus 1 here, 4. So to the power of 4. So dy over dx of 7x to the power of 5, the derivative of 7x to the power of 5, هي 35x to the power of 4. هن هول rules. Super easy. Okay? Similarly to, let's say I gave you a graph. Okay? Let's say أنا أعطيتك graph. Let's say it's going up. All of a sudden it decides to go down. Then again it decides to go back up. And then decides to go down. Throughout this graph, we have some points. In math you have many names. بنسميهم turning points. Turning points. Turning points, I think you can guess from the name what the turning point is and what it does. But the turning point is when the graph suddenly decides to just change. So in this case, when you're looking at, let's call this point at the top here point A. Let's call the graph L. This curve L is moving up, and then all of a sudden at point A it decides it wants to start moving back down. So point A would be the turning point. It's when the graph decides, it stops, it says خلاص, I want to change direction, I want to start going down. For point A is the turning point. Turning points can be classified into two. هن الماكسيموم والمينيموم. This is very self-explanatory. When you have the graph in front of you, you can know what is maximum, which one is minimum. So obviously here, point A would be the maximum, because it went up all the way until it reached A, which is the maximum, so it started going down. Then let's say I call this red point over here Heidi B, sorry. Let's say I call this B. Point B here would be the minimum because it was going down, 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 down all the way until it reached the smallest value, the minimum value. So we call this point B is min. Point A عندك تكتب له max. وخلينا نقول هيدي C. The graph decided to start going up again all the way until it reached C. It reached the maximum. So it started going down again. So C is another maximum. Please keep in mind, you can have more than one maximum and more than one minimum. You can have infinite. Okay, just look at your graph. You can have infinite. طب you're gonna tell me وليد أنا let's say مثلا we found the derivative is 2x to the power of 3 and you have x plus 4. You're gonna tell me طب وليد, you're telling me وليد I have to graph and draw curves and shit to find the turning points? No, you don't. It's way easier than that. To find your turning points and your minimum maximum values, you equate dy over dx to 0. So what am I saying? I'm saying just make your derivative equal it to 0. So after you find this is my derivative dy over dx. After you found this, just equate it to 0. So let's say here 2x to the power of 3 into x plus 4. I want to find the turning points. So what do? I equal it to 0. Let's see, how many turning points do I have? There's two possibilities for it to equal to 0. Either 2x to the power of 3 equals 0, and in that case divide by 2 on both sides, you get x to the power of 3 equals 0, and you get x equals 0. That's my first case. Or my second case is x plus 4 equals 0, take 4 to the other side, you get x equals negative 4. So in this case, I have two turning points, which are x equals 0 and x equals negative 4. طب وليد, how do I know which one's minimum, which one's maximum? That's a good question. When a graph is going up, we call this positive, which is greater than 0. بعدين, when a graph changes at the turning point and starts going down, what do we call this? We call this negative, which is less than 0. فأنت you have to pay attention and see, this turning point, was it at the positive or was it at the negative? Let me help you. If it was positive, it would be greater than 0 when the graph is greater than 0. So let's take our derivative here, 2x to the power of 3. No, because it just let me get out of the car, and x plus 4. This is my derivative. We want to see, when is it positive? When is it negative? When it's positive, we said it's greater than 0. When it's negative, we said it's less than 0. So what you do is, you take this and you just put greater than 0. So بتاخد that 2x to the power of 3 plus, 2x to the power of 3 into x plus 4. Put greater than 0. You divide by 2x to the power of 3 on both sides. You get x plus 4 greater than 0. Take 4 to the other side. Comes x is greater than negative 4. So when x is greater than negative 4, the derivative will be positive. So when x is greater than negative 4. So that means, we said the turning point was at negative 4. So let's imagine this is a graph. You don't have to draw anything. Just imagine you have our first turning point 0 and our second turning point was at negative 4. We know that after negative 4, it's positive. So after negative 4, it starts going up. So, so if after negative 4 it's positive and started going up, that means before negative 4 it was going down. So that means negative 4 here was my minimum value. That's how you do it. It might sound tricky, but هلا when we solve questions, it's gonna be easy. Okay? هلا let's see. فعندك هون you have let me zoom in. You have 7x to the power of 6 minus 10x to the power of 5. هون عم يسألوك عن derivatives dy over dx. And when is it positive? When is it greater than 0? So when is it positive? بعدين down they're asking when is it less than 0? So when is it negative over here? So they're asking about the derivative. So obviously you can't solve without finding the derivative. نحن شو هن الsteps؟ كانوا أول شيء multiply n by coefficient. وتاني step هي subtract n by 1. Okay, so you have 7x6 minus 10x5. Okay, let's multiply the coefficients. 6 times 7 هني 42. See 42x to the power of 6. Then 5 times negative 10 هي negative 50 x to the power of 5. هيدي step 1. Step 2 هي subtract n by 1. So 42, see 42, 6 minus 1, 5. Minus 50x, 5 minus 1, 4. So أنا my derivative is 42x to the power of 5 minus 50x to the power of 4. هيدي هي dy over dx. طب okay, before continuing, you can factor. So make sure to always factor, because if your answer is not fully factored, then it's going to be wrong. You can take 2 out from 42 and 50, and you can factor out x to the power of 4. 42 divided by 2, 21. x5 minus x4, it's here just x. Minus 50 and divided by 2, minus 25. So أنا my derivative dy over dx هي 2x to the power of 4 into 21x minus 25. Okay, so this is how we got this answer. هلا هني عم بيسألوا dy over dx when is it positive when is it negative. فلا خلينا نحلها. Let's solve it. So let's take our derivative. I'm scrolling, moving everything up. Let's take our derivative, which is 2x to the power of 4 into 21x minus 25. Let's see, when is it greater than 0? So when is it positive? Positive معناته when is it increasing? Remember positive يعني increasing. So when you put it greater than 0 معناته it's positive. Let's solve this now. You divide by 2x power 4 on both sides. Hold 2x power 4, hold 2x power 4. But here 21x minus 25 greater than 0. Because 0 divided by anything 0. 25 other side, 21x greater than 25. So here x greater than 25 over 21. So when is it positive? When is it increasing? When x goes past 25 over 21. So let's think of it. Here is 0 on the numbers, and here's 25 over 21. Okay, so when it goes past 25 over 21, it starts going up. So before 25 over 21, it was going down. Okay, that's how you should think of it. So 25 over 21 is obviously one of your turning points. Okay, obviously it's one of your turning points. Well, in this case, obviously is the minimum. This انسى minimum والماكسيموم هسه بس focus on the positive part greater than 0. dy over dx is greater than 0 when x goes past 25 over 21. So it's correct. شوفي كمان dy over dx less than 0 for x greater than 25 over 21. Obviously this is wrong because we said when it goes past 25 over 21 it's going to be greater than 0 and not less than 0. Okay, is dy over dx always positive? Obviously not. It can never be always positive. Okay, we said it's going to be positive in this case. When is it going to be positive? When it goes past 25 over 21. The curve has a local minimum at x equals 0. نحن, how do we find the minimums والmaximums? How do we know the turning points? احنا derivative تبعنا هي 2x to the power 4 into 21x minus 25. How do you know your derivatives? I said equate it to 0. شو هن قصدي how do you find your turning points? You equate to 0. So divide both sides by 2x4. 2x4. You get 21x minus 25 equals 0. You take 25 to the other side. You get 21x equals 25. So x equals 25 over 21. Second solution. This is the first solution, and I took that this part, inside part, is equal to 0. The second solution is that 2x to the power of 4 equals 0. Because you guys know, when you have مثلا 3x plus 5 and then 2x plus 1 equals 0, you have to take this equals 0 and this equals 0. So we took this part equals 0, we got 25 over 21. That's our first turning point. هلا 2x, now we have to take 2x to the power 4. 2x to the power 4 equals 0. Divide by 2, divide by 2, get x power 4 equals 0, and obviously x will be 0. So أنا my two turning points are x equals 0 and 25 over 21. أي واحدة منهم أي واحدة maximum. Okay. بدك تطلع how we looked before. We said after 25 over 21, you always draw the line like this. Here's 0 and here's 25 over 21. Okay? We said after 25 over 21, it starts becoming positive. So after 25 over 21, it starts going up. So obviously before 25 over 21, it was going down. So if what's this point here? We call it minimum. That's how you do it. So 25 over 21 is my minimum. And obviously 25, 21 is the minimum. So 0 here is going to be up here. It's going to be the maximum. It's a bit confusing at first, but I don't think they're going to go into this much detail in the exam. They're probably just going to ask for the derivatives and the positive. بس هيك يعني it's nice to know them. Okay. هلا you guys at this point you should know the concept of derivative. Let's go. Here they're asking for dy over dx, فأكيد find the derivative. 3x squared minus 5x plus 7. Find the derivative of it. قلنا you multiply n by the coefficient. Here أكيد if 5x, so the power is 1. وهون is 7, يعني the power is 0. Okay? If there's no x, then the power is 0. Okay? 2 times 3 is 6. And then you subtract by 1, so it's going to be 6x to the power of 1. Hon 1 times negative 5, he negative 5. And then 1 minus 1 becomes 0. So you just don't write the x. And here 0 times 7 is 0, so you don't write it. So your derivative is 6x to the power of 1 minus 5, which is 6x minus 5. This is your derivative. So here dy over dx equals 6x minus 5. هيدي أول واحدة. Then they're asking us when is it less than 0, so when is it negative. So you put 6x minus 5 less than 0. Hit 5 the other side, 6x less than 5, divide by 6, you get x less than 5 over 6. It's bad. X less than 5 over 6. So when is it negative? When is it less than 0? Before when x is less than 5 over 6. So مثلا عندك 0 هون وعندك عندك this is the line, you have 0 هون, you have 5 over 6 here. Before 5 over 6 it was less than 0, so negative. So to the left of 5 over 6 it was going down, it was negative. Okay? And then so obviously after 5 over 6 it's going to start becoming positive. So first one we said it's correct because we solved it. The function values are increasing for x greater than 5 over 6. So معناتها when we say x greater than 5 over 6, it means after 5 over 6, after this turning point. Should we see here? Look at it. We said it was going down, it was negative before 5 over 6. So after 5 over 6, start becoming positive. If it starts becoming positive, معناتها we're going up, we're increasing. The values are increasing. So the function values are increasing for x greater than 5 over 6. هيدي صح. The last part, dy over dx equals 0 when x equals 6 over 5. Obviously not. Put 6x minus 5 equals 0. Take 5 other side. 6x equals 5. X equals 5 over 6. This is 5 over 6. This is 6 over 5. So أكيد it's wrong. Okay? And by the way, this function, 6x minus 5, only has one turning point. Why? Because, like you said, and I told you to find the turning points, you equal it to 0. and you get only one answer, which is 5 over 6. You can't get any other answer. So this function only has one turning point. And in this case, 5 over 6 was the minimum. It was the minimum. Why? Because then I told you كان عندنا هون 0 كان عندنا هون 5 over 6, and we said before 5 over 6 it was negative. Before, to the left of 5 over 6 it was negative, so it was going down. And then after, obviously, if before it's negative, so after it was positive. So obviously here this is the minimum, not the maximum. This one I will do it fast. Origin يعني you just flip them both, change the signs of both. This is easy. Vertical asymptote. Vertical asymptote يعني we're talking about x. Okay, so to find the vertical asymptote, you equal the denominator to 0. 40 to the other side, 4x equals 40, x equals 10. ده الآن. Y-axis معناتها if they say reflect about the y-axis, so you only change the x. So the x becomes positive, the rest stays the same. Easy. Okay, they said here f of x is in blue, so the blue one is f of x. Oh, why am I drawing that in red? طيب عندي أزرق. عندي أزرق. Blue is f of x و g of x is in red, ف change back to red. G of x is in red. Okay. فأنا I stopped at saying f of x is in blue, g of x is in red. They're saying f of x is greater than g of x when x is greater than what? So when is the blue line bigger than the red line? I mean, let's look at it يعني. Over here, sorry. Over here at this intersection point at 3, okay, the blue line started going above. So over here at 3, at x equals how much? 3. These questions come the exact same in the exam. Don't fuck them up. Okay, this one I'm not gonna waste time explaining. Hey, put your calculator on degrees and just solve. Please remember, secant is 1 over cosine, cosecant is 1 over sine, cotangent هي 1 over tan، والباقي بتعرفوه. هيدي أكيد غلط هون. 6 obviously is not the answer. بس بدك تطلع على الهايت. What is the height يا جماعة؟ الهايت is 4 والlowest point هي كمان negative 4، فأكيد is 4. 4 sin x. That's it. يعني all of these are the easy ones. هيدي مثلا هيدي كمان a sin bx. أنا always tell you to find b. It's 360 divided by period. هيدي من الفاينلز if you remember. In this case the period is from the start minus pi over 2 and it finishes at pi over 2. You guys know pi is 180. For 180 over 2, no, sorry, minus 180 over 2 to 180 over 2. 180 over is negative 90. 180 over 2 is positive 90. From negative 90 to 90 is 180 duration. So the period is 180. So 360 على 180 بيطلع لك 2. Easy. يعني self-explanatory. Okay, which does not belong to the graph of y equals 4 cosine x. أكيد 4 cosine x, so height is 4. كيف عندك h over here is at 2، فأكيد h is wrong. يعني all is easy. I'm flying through these because they don't need explanation. Minus 2 cosine x. Okay, if you want to look at the points, they're all, the distance between each one is 1 square. You see how they're all 1 square apart? And from Q to W, it's only 1 square apart. From W to Y, 1 square apart. Y to S, it's 1 square apart. S to Z, it's 1 square apart. Until over here, whoa, from Z to X, it's 2 squares apart. This X should be all the way over here. Okay, so X is wrong. If you want me to draw the actual graph of 4 cosine x minus 2 cosine x, it will start over here, go up to Q, Q back to W, down to Y, to S, to Z, and there should be the X should be over here, but it's not. And then it goes down here, and then continues down to L. which is correct. L is correct. For this x should just be moved to the left. Okay. Uh, the tan graph. Okay. The tan graph, we know tan is sine over cos. Sine over cosine. Okay. And you guys know if there's a denominator, the denominator cannot equal 0. So if cosine cannot equal 0, that means cosine can't be 90. Because if you do shift cosine of 0, you get 90. You don't need to know this مهم. Cosine مهم. The tan repeats itself every 90 because it can't be 90 degrees. So here we said tan 3x. Tan 3x. So you're dividing it by 3. So instead of the asymptote being at 90, the asymptote is always at 90 over b. Since here b is 3, so the asymptote will be at 90 divided by 3, which is every 30 degrees. هون هيدي pi over b minus pi over b. We said it's going to be equal to what? 30. Because the asymptote over here is at 30. How do we know it's 30? Because we did 90 divided by b, which was 3. You got 30. Home, but this is another. I don't know why they put it as b here, the letter. It's confusing. But مهم. Minus pi over b. This over here is supposed to be 30. You know pi is 180. So 180 over b equals 30. Cross, you get 30b equals 180. So b equals 6. That's it. The answer is not 3, not 6. So let me put the correct answer. Yeah, it's 6. Okay, solving equations, some quadratic equations, a method of solving is called completing the square. Okay, even though you could solve this same equation through a different way of solving, they would still require you to say complete this quadratic equation and solve it using completing the square. Completing the square, we had it in the final. I made a whole nother video about it, and I'll put the link in the description below. That sounded corny as shit. بس مهم, I'll put the link for the video in the description if anyone wants to watch it. So I won't explain. I'll just solve. Okay. So here they want you when they say when like look here, they said 5x squared minus 40x minus 180 equals 0 is equivalent to 5 something minus something squared. So that means they're asking you complete square. Complete the square. How do we do complete the square? Let's see. 5x squared minus 40x minus 180 equals 0. And I told you first you isolate these two and factor out. So you isolate them out, you factor out the 5, becomes x squared minus 8x, and you have minus 180 on the outside. Okay? هلا you divide by 2 and square. So 5x squared minus 8x. Divide by 2 is 4, and square it, so 16, and you minus 16. You always do plus 16 minus 16. You have minus 180 outside equals 0. Okay, now you factor these three. You factor these three. Okay, you factor these three. It becomes, because since it's a perfect square, you just square root x. Take the sign in the middle. Minus square root of 16, 4 squared. X minus 4 squared. And you have the 5 on the outside. So what about this minus 16? You do 5 times minus 16, which is minus 80. Minus 80, and you have this minus 180 outside equals 0. Minus 80 minus 180 is 5x minus 4 squared minus 260 equals 0. That's it. Okay? How do I? This is the answer. If you don't understand how to solve or why I'm doing these steps, كلهم موجودين completing the square video, which I'm gonna put in the description. Okay, for what value is 2x squared plus 36 equals 36? So just solve, bro. Take 36 to the other side, you get 2x squared equals 0. Divide by 2 on both sides, you get x squared equals 0. X equals radical 0. There's only one answer because there's only one square root of 0, and that is 0. This is easy. X minus 8, x plus 14. Okay, what are the two roots? Equals 0. So this was in grade 9. X minus 8 equals 0. So you solve x minus 8 equals 0 and you do x plus 14 equals 0. Take 8 to the other side, you get positive 8. Take 14 to the other side, you get negative 14. That's it. Okay, this one again, and I told you when they put squared, معناته they're telling you complete the square. Okay, how do we do it? X squared minus 8x minus 3 equals 0. Complete the square. So you isolate these two, x squared minus 8x, and then you put minus 3 on the side. Half of 8 divided by 2, 8. You get 4, plus the square and minus the square. X squared minus 8x plus half of 8 is 4, plus the square of 4, which is plus 16, and then minus 16. You have minus 3 outside. Okay, factor these three, you get x, sign in the middle, minus square root of 16, 4, so x minus 4 squared. And then you have this minus 16 on the out. There's nothing to multiply it by, so you just keep it as minus 16, and you have this minus 3. Minus 16 minus 3 is minus 19. So it's going to be x minus 4 squared minus 19. And that's the answer here. So for this one, and the first time looking at it, I got mad confused. I'm gonna be honest. Okay, so just write it down. Secant squared x minus 22 tan x plus 20 equals 0. And when I looked at this, I was mad confused, yeah. And then I went, I looked at the formulas. There's some formulas you have to know. Okay, how do I open my like this? So let me go back, previous. Here, yeah. So this is the how do I? لا no, whoa. Yeah, I want to copy it. How the fuck do I copy? Set this back. لا بدي waterfall. I want to put it on a different page. لا. Oh. Uh, okay, المهم it's here. So I can just copy it from here. Uh, like this. The current page. Okay, so Anna, after looking at it, I understood it a bit. Just put this on. They wrote for us secant squared plus whatever. Secant squared minus 22 tan x plus 20 equals 0. These three you have to memorize. Just remember, sine squared plus cosine squared is 1. Secant squared minus tan squared equals 1. And cosecant squared minus cotangent squared equals 1. So what you have to do here is you have to know that secant squared, if you take tan squared to the other side, secant squared would be 1 plus tan squared. So here, instead of secant squared x, I can put 1 plus tan squared. So 1 plus tan squared, and I have minus 22 tan, and then plus 20 equals 0. What can I simplify? I can add 1 and 20. 1 and 20 becomes 21, and then you have tan squared here, and minus 22 tan. Let's rearrange this and keep these tans at the start. So tan squared minus 22 tan plus 21 equals 0. Okay, let's this is, it's a bit too crowded, yeah? So let's replace these tans with x. So let's replace it with x. So x squared minus 22x plus 21 equals 0. Okay, you can factor this. You can get x minus no x sorry plus 21 and x minus 1, because 21 plus 1 gets you 22, and 21 times 1 is 21 equals 0. So you have two solutions. Either x minus 1 equals 0, take 1 to the other side, and x equals 1, Or you have x plus 21 equals 0. 21 to the other side, you get x equals minus 21. They gave you already x equals 1. They want the other one, which is 21. And how did I get negative? Takes the middle. Oh, sorry, it should be x minus. It should be x minus 21. X minus 21, x plus 1. It takes the sign of the middle number. Okay, my fault, my fault. So this is positive 21. This is also minus 1. My fault. If it's plus, then both are the same. Okay, أيوه. X minus. Fuck. X minus 21. X minus 1. So you get 1, positive 1, and positive 21. They already gave you the 1, so you just want the 21. Okay, so just remember sine squared plus cosine squared equals 1, and secant squared, you could either memorize 1 plus tan squared, or you could just say secant squared minus tan squared equals 1. And then the last one, cosecant squared minus cotangent squared equals 1. Okay, we worked with derivatives earlier. Now we're going to work with them again. Except now we have more rules and it's a bit longer. Now we're working with equations of lines of tangents, okay? when أنا let's say أنا برسم لك خلينا نرسم لك هون وهون. أنا بدي أرسم لك graph, okay? I have my tools, دي shapes, لا مش هون tools. Fuck, where is it? Huh? What am I doing? Oh yeah, this one, graph. It can graph for me. Okay, let's say now I want to graph x power of 3 plus x to the power of 2. Okay, let's say this is my graph here. Okay, and let's say I want to draw. I want to. Whoa, what the fuck am I doing? خلاص خلاص fuck this. Let me just draw it myself. I can't try. I don't have. خلاص I draw it myself. مهم, let's say I gave you and I drew for you uh this graph. This is a graph of sine, by the way, sine x. Okay, uh let's say here at x equals 3, at x is 3, when x is 3 over here, at this point, let's say, and this came in the final, let's say I want to draw a tangent. This is my okay, obviously that's not a tangent, but you get what I mean, yeah? This is a tangent. Okay, let's say I want to draw a tangent to x equals 3 for this curve. They'd ask you, to what's the slope of this tangent? What's the slope of this tangent? Obviously you can do y2 minus y1, but you're gonna get an inaccurate answer. If you want the exact answer, you have to follow the rules. So let's say, like this question here, they gave you a normal equation. This is a curve, by the way. It looks like this, and then it goes down. This is how it looks. If I'm not wrong, this is the one that came in the final, actually. How it works is, to find the equation of the tangent to the curve, the first step is substitute the point given. So in this case, x equals 2. So let's go. X to the power of 3, it will become 2 to the power of 3 plus 4 times 2 to the power of 2 plus 10, which is 8 plus 16 plus 10, which is 34. 34. Yeah, so enter when you get this 34. This 34 will be your y, okay? Because you want the point. Remember when you have this graph and we said مثلا at x equals 2. You want to know what the exact point. X equals 2 could be here, could be here, could be here. We want to know where, which point on the curve. So to find the y of that point, you do this substitution to find the y. We got 34. So here 2 comma 34. Let's say مثلا this is the point here over here. So now I know my point is 2 comma 34 and I want the slope. How you find the slope is you plug in the point into the derivative. You're gonna tell me, Willie, what the fuck are you saying? Step 2, find dy over dx. It would be better if I wrote this on Scratch. Let me write it on Scratch. To find equation of tangent. Step 1 is find your y coordinate. And how you find your y is by substituting the x. Because how are you going to draw a tangent if you don't know what the point is? You need to know the y. So let's see here, we substituted the x. It became 2 to the power of 3 plus 4 times 2 to the power of 2 plus 10 equals 34. So they gave us our x is 2 and now we got our y is 34. Step 2 is find the derivative. We know how to find the derivative. In this case, the original equation was x to the power of 3 plus 4x squared plus 10. 4x squared plus 10. We know what to do. You do 3 times the coefficient, which is 3, and then minus the power by 1, which becomes x squared. Here 2 times the coefficient, which is 4, becomes 8, minus the power by 1, x. And then here, if there's no x, we know the power is 0. 0 times coefficient is 0. So our derivative is 3x squared plus 8x. Then step 3, find slope. How do you find the slope? You know, when we want to find a line, you always need to find y equals mx plus b. We always need the slope. How do you find the slope? Let's plug in the x into derivative. So let's see. Let's plug in the x into the derivative. The x given is 2. Let's plug in 2 into the derivative, 3x squared plus 8x. You get 3 times 2 squared plus 8 times 2. 3 times 2 squared is 4, so 3 times 4 plus 16, 12 plus 16 equals 28. So 28 is slope. So now we're getting there, right? We're almost there. 4. 4 is find b, because we're saying y equals mx plus b. We found the slope now. M is 28, so 28x. We want to find b. And you guys know, to find b, you have to substitute the y and the x. What's our y? This is why I told you have to find your y in the first step. 34. 34 equals 28 times x is 2 plus b. 34 equals 28 times 2 is 56 plus b. 56 to the other side, you get b equals 56 minus 34 is negative 22. So our final equation, y equals mx plus b. We get y equals m we got was 28 and b we said is minus 22. This is how you find the equation of a line, of the tangent. Always find your y first, then find your derivative. Then you have to find the slope using your derivative and plug in the x into the derivative to find the slope. Then find b by using y equals mx plus b. This is how you find the equation of the tangent. Here they gave you a graph and they drew for you the tangent over here. They're saying what's the gradient of the curve at the point abscissa 2. So over here at 2, what's the gradient? To find the gradient, they're basically saying what's the slope. Here you don't have the equation given, so you're not left with any other option than to find the slope using the old way, which is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Look at the tangent over here. We have 2 points. We have one over here at 2 comma 0, and then we have one over here at 3 comma negative 3. 3 comma negative 3. Wait, hold up. No. What the fuck? At 3 comma negative 4. My fault. It hits the line over here at 3 comma negative 4. So use y2 minus y1, y2 negative 4 minus 0 over x2 minus x1. You get negative 4 over 1, so your slope is negative 4. We only use this way to find the slope since we don't have any equation given to find the derivative of. If you have the equation given, you have to use the way I told you, and to find the slope by plugging in the x into the derivative, like I said here. To find the slope, you plug the x into the derivative. Okay, what is the gradient of y equals x to the power of 12 at x equals 1? So they're saying what's the slope? How do you find the slope? To find the slope, I told you, to find the slope, you plug in x into the derivative. So أول شيء, find the derivative. What's the derivative of x to the power of 12? 12 times the coefficient. So 12 times 1 is 12. X, then you minus the power by 1, so 12x to the power of 11. And you plug in x into your derivative. So 12 times 1 to the power of 11. 1 to the power of 11 is 1, so 12 times 1, 12. Same thing here. What's the gradient? Gradient yani slope. They gave you an equation. What do? You plug in x into the derivative. What's the derivative? 3 times coefficient, so 12, x, and then take the power down by 1, 2. Plug in negative 2 into your derivative. 12 times negative 2 to the power of 2. So 12 times 4, which is 48. The function given by y equals minus 8x cubed plus 24x minus 10 has two local extreme values. The abscissa of one of the extreme values is x equals 1, and they want the second extreme value. Okay, لما نحن بنقول extreme value, when I was explaining earlier, I told you there's more than one word for turning point. In here, they're calling it extreme value. So they're asking for the turning point. They gave you one of the x's for the turning points is 1. What's the second x for the other turning point? Okay, how do we find it? أول شيء, how do you find the turning points? I told you equate your derivative dy over dx to 0. In this case, they give us the equation, so first thing we have to do is obviously find dy over dx, which is the derivative. How do we find it? 3 times coefficient. 3 times negative 8 is negative 24. And then take the power down by 1. So instead of 3, it becomes 2. Then 24x, the power is 1, obviously. 1 times 24 is plus 24. And then take the power down by 1. It becomes x to the power of 0. And we don't write x to the power of 0, so we just leave it. Here 10, since there's no power, it's 0. And 0 times 10, the coefficient is 0. So you cancel that out. So you're left with, as the derivative, is negative 24x squared plus 24. Now we have a derivative. We want to equate it to 0. So minus 24x squared plus 24 equals 0. There's two ways you can solve. You can you can take 24x squared to the other side. It becomes positive. So it becomes 24 equals 24x squared. And then you cancel 24 on both sides. you get 24 divided by 24 is 1 equals x squared. If x squared equals 1, so x equals the square root of 1. So plus minus, always remember plus minus the square root of 1, because there's always positive and negative. And what's the positive square root of 1? It's positive 1. And what's the negative square root? It's negative 1. So they gave us the first x is 1, and they want the second x, which is negative 1. Here. Okay. Here they gave you an equation. They gave you 3 turning points. They say these 3 turning points. You have to figure out whether it's a minimum, maximum, or minimum. Yeah, if it's a minimum or a maximum. Hello, look. The long way to solve is find the derivative, then find which one's positive and which one's negative. Remember, the turning point is a minimum. When is it a minimum? When it's all the way down. So let's say, remember, we had 25 over 21. It was a minimum. I think it was a minimum. Why? Because after 25, when dy over dx was greater than 25 over 21, that means it was positive. So that means after it crossed 25 over 21, it started becoming positive. So that means 25 over 21 was a minimum. That's the long way to do it. But if, that's because we only had the x's at that time. But if they give you points like this, then you can solve easily. 0, comma 4 is over here. Radical 2, comma 8 is, let's say here's radical 2. And here's comma 8 over here. Here's negative 2 radical 8. Negative radical 2, 8. Here's negative radical 2, 8. So you pretty much have 3 points. Connect them like this. Obviously, this point here is a maximum. This point here is a minimum. And this point here is a maximum. So the ones with the radicals are both maximums. And the one 0, comma 4 is the minimum here. In this case. This is how you solve. This one's easy, Sarah. Okay, this is the last question. The correlation in the scatter diagram is strong and negative. And the kind scatter plot. Is it strong? Yes. Strong meaning that the points have somewhat of a correlation. Yani, the points don't look like this. This is weak. But this is strong because you can kind of draw a line. Okay? So obviously it's strong and it's negative because it's going down. Okay. This part B, I'm gonna solve it, but it's a bit hard. I don't think it will come. I don't think it came out in the previous MSs, but we still do it. Okay? They want you to draw a line. They want find out what this line is. What's the equation of this line? Okay? So obviously you have 2 points, one here and one over here. هن 12, 90 و 20, 60. أول شيء you find the slope, so 90 minus 60, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, 12 minus 20. He 30 over minus 8. I think 30 over minus 8, yeah, which is in simplest form divided by 2 up and down, 15 over minus 4. Okay, this is your slope. So y equals mx plus b. Okay, we want to find b, صح? So m, we said the slope, which we got is 15 over negative 4. X plus b equals y. Now what do you do to find b? We said substitute any point. This is grade 8 stuff. Substitute any point. Let's take 12, 90. 12 is the x. Or no, let's take 20, 60 أحسن. Okay, 20, 60. 20 is the x, y is 60. So 60, instead of y we put 60 equals 15 over negative 4 x. X is 20 in this case, plus b. 20 over negative 4, they cancel. 20 becomes negative 5, and 4 goes away. It will become 60 equals 15 times negative 5 plus b. 15 times negative 5, he negative 75 plus b equals 60. So b equals, take negative 75 to the other side, it becomes 135. So that means your equation would be y equals 15 over negative 4x plus 135. أحسن to keep the negative up. It's easier for solving. Okay, keep the negative up. Okay, let's keep negative 15 over positive 4. It's the same number. Okay, see, that's not the choice they gave you here. They want you to take the x to the left. So how do you take x to the left? You have to get rid أول شيء of this denominator, the over 4. How do you get rid of this over 4? You multiply by 4 everywhere. So 4 times y is 4y. 4 times negative 15 over 4, obviously it cancels the 4. It becomes negative 15x. And 135 times 4 is 540. Now you can just take the negative 15x to the left. It becomes 15x plus 4y equals 540. And that's your answer, I think. Yeah, it is. Based on now, based on the line, this is easy. Based on the line of best fit, the expected score for a person who spends 12 hours watching TV. So you go up to 12 hours. That should add. Go up to 12 hours. It crosses the line at 90. That's it. The model letter grade is B. Model letter يعني repeated the most. Repeated most. Let's go up to our graph. If you look carefully, the thing that's repeated the most is over here between 80 and 90. And if you go to the table between 80 and 90 is a B. Okay? So that's why the answer is B. I think like this, we're done. 1 hour. Oof, 1 hour. Well, it's a long quiz, صراحة. If you spend what 3 minutes, let's say 2 minutes on each question, بيطلع 1 hour. فإن شاء الله you guys do good. Uh, good luck. Thank you for watching. I'll leave the completing the square video in the description.